Hello YouTube, this is Total War Seraphim bringing you the third games from the FIB, the Faction Inheritance Battle. This battle will be being played between Yawningfirefly and Walii. Yawningfirefly will be taking Arverni, and Walii will be taking Epirus. Let's jump right into it, huh? Alright, well, we're going to take a look at Walii's build first here as Epirus. We've got a Lyrian Levy, a mercenary Italian swordsman, Tarentine cavalry, mercenary Samnite warrior, archers, standard, royal peltist general, Thessalian cavalry, mercenary Samnite warrior, another standard archer, Thessalian, third standard archer, mercenary Samnite, Etruscan hoplite, mercenary Etruscan hoplite, Thessalian, mercenary Italian swordsman, and Illyrian levies on the left flank. Now let's take a look at Yawningfirefly playing as Arverni's build. He's a chosen spearman, chosen swordsman, savage dogs, interesting choice, noble horse, levy freeman in the front, chosen swordsman, heavy horse, chosen swordsman, heavy horse, chosen swordsman, levy freeman, Celtic warriors, heavy horse, Celtic warriors, levy freeman, Celtic warriors, chosen swordsman on the far right flank, as well as a chosen spearman on the flank, clearly expecting a large cavalry contingent from Walii playing as Epirus. I actually like this matchup very much. I think it suits both players, though I will be fair and say that Yawningfirefly did have an incredibly hard bracket in that the other factions that were chosen to play against him, at least in my mind, definitely outclass the Arverni. So I figured that he would have to get a little bit creative with his build here, and he has brought at least what is in my mind a good strong mid-tier sword and very useful heavy horse contingent. So both these players are very, very cautious in playing one another in that they've played many games together, and so there's a period of time here where they try to feel each other out. And what I find interesting too is that they'll move units up and down the line, preparing for their attacks, and they know very much, I think, what the other person is going to have to do. Having played each other, they probably also know what they prefer to do. I find this very interesting. So again, we have Yawningfirefly repositioning his men, and Walii seems to be content to stay where he's at. I thought the interesting selection of the Savage Dogs from the Blade Balance mod was a very interesting choice. They've become a bit cheaper, and so we're going to see if they're used effectively or if they're cost effective in this match. Already Walii looks like he's moving around the Thessalians. He's moving his royal peltist up. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm sure he has some strategy in mind. Yawningfirefly seems to be moving a bit to his right, shifting his flank. The chosen spearman on the outside, probably to guard from what inevitably he knew would be the Thessalians. So now Walii begins to move up into a more advantageous position, perhaps trying to match up unit for unit. And so again, we have these two players staring eyeball to eyeball with one another, these two armies. There is an archer contingent for Epirus, for Walii, but he does not seem like he wants to run them forward. And with the Savage Dogs of Yawningfirefly, I could see why. I've never seen the dogs used terribly effectively, except maybe to catch up to horse archers or perhaps to attack a unit from behind. I have heard that they are not incredibly effective unless you turn a unit to flee from them, where it will take much more damage and cause a morale debuff. So the Thessalians are being moved into position, and that should be quite telling. I've commented before that the Thessalians can be very cost effective. They're very simple to make effective in the game, and so if I were Yawningfirefly in this position, and I'm certainly not, but if I were, I would be scared of frontal charges to my chosen swordsmen, which represent a hefty investment. I believe that the Thessalians can also take out MLG Freemen if they get a frontal charge. I believe I've seen it more than a couple times in tournament play. So again, they're just incredibly versatile and very useful and cheap, and as such, pretty cost effective. Again, so both players just eyeballing each other, trying to get a sense of what the other opponent might do or what their strategy is. The shifting of units seems to be complete for both Walii and Yawningfirefly, except for that one unit moving down the center. The chosen spearmen have been shifted inwards towards the middle. The entire formation has been contracted a bit to match Walii's, while the Thessalians have been shifted to the flank and are in perfect position to strike. Walii pulls back and moves towards his right flank, again trying to match the positioning. Yawningfirefly sees this, and I believe that he's pouncing at this moment while Walii's army is in motion. This can be a very useful tactic. If the other person makes too large of a shift, they don't necessarily have time to respond. It's been done to me several times. I do find this heavy horse general to be an interesting choice, but it would make sense, I suppose, bringing it up against the Thessalians. Simply because there's going to be a lot of mobility issues with the Thessalians constantly running charges, and it's a good unit to have to tie down the Thessalians and take them into a prolonged combat. So now Yawningfirefly is moving up his flanks and his center, trying again matching horizontally the motion of Walii, and he retreats a bit and starts his Thessalian countercharge as he sees the Arverni heavy horse charging towards his men. His archers open up on the Levy Freemen and already have caused about 8, 9, 10 deaths. Excuse me, 3, 4. And here we can see the flanks have just started to commence. So the heavy horse comes in with a great charge to the levies and the hoplite, allowing his units to get into combat quite quickly and cleanly without taking many losses. The heavy horses then retreats, and the Thessalians did not countercharge on that, I noticed. I find very interesting. Perhaps he was busy on this flank, as I'm sure he was. The Mercenary Sam Knights are chasing up a unit, while the Italian swordsmen and the Illyrian levies are getting into it with the Levy Freemen, the Chosen Spears, and the Oathsworn General. Here we have a charge that's just slightly late, but it'll still do a lot of impact damage. This Thessalian intercepts the Chosen Swordsman and will then be counterattacked by another heavy horse. The Freemen and the Chosen Spears are moving around the left flank of Walii. The archers now begin to open up. They're targeting the heavy horse and causing significant HP damage. This Tarentine is being moved around. This Thessalian is being moved around the flank, perhaps to guard from other charges. The heavy horse now sees a gap that it might exploit, and the Thessalian is being chased by the other heavy horse. The right flank for Yawningfirefly has already surrounded and committed itself, while the center is just holding, and the left flank looks to be Yawningfirefly's at this point as well. The archers are now targeting the Oathsworn General in an attempt, the Noble Horse, in an attempt to do as much HP damage. Once the Thessalians lose, the archers will fall quite quickly, I'm sure. The Freemen and the Heavy Horse have moved in on the right flank and are causing quite a bit of damage. A Mercenary Sam Knight of Walii's is peeled away to deal with them, while his Royal Peltis deals with the Savage Dogs. The Heavy Horse General now gets into the skirmishers and silences them quite effectively. The Tarentine Cav moves through the forest and starts to get flank shots on the Chosen Horse, while the other Tarentine is pulled out to the center to take shots at the center Heavy Horse. So the right flank seems to be crumbling for Walii, and he attempts to bring his Royal Peltis in here to rectify that situation, in that he must hold on that side before it all collapses centerward. These heavy horse are left to their own devices, while Walii wheels up this Tarantine and opens up on the chosen swordsman from behind, and that is incredibly effective and deadly from behind. So now he's shuffling around his men. These Thessalians are going to get a free charge here on this heavy horse that was I'm sure Yawningfirefly was busy elsewhere. The mercenary, the general is held quite well on the left flank for Walii. Here the heavy horse, the noble horse gets a rear charge into the mercenary Samnites and the mercenary Etruscans, causing the Samnites to waver. The Thessalians are now moving into the back and have a rear charge right into this chosen swordsman, and that was a brutal charge, which causes it to rout. So now it's looking a little bit on the fence for Yawningfirefly. There seems to be a lot of units left for Walii, and they're being used quite effectively. This Tarantine has absolutely tore up one unit of chosen swordsmen. So now the the Peltis general is being brought in to deal with these chosen spearmen, and the other the freemen are also coming in to join that fight. The center is now crumbled quite clearly in favor of Walii, who is now bringing the Thessalians over to help with rear charges to these freemen and chosen swords. And again, just another absolutely brutal charge delivered by these Thessalians. The Tarantine is being wheeled away for the moment, and the Etruscan hoplite is duking it out with this chosen swordsman. The mercenary Tarantines are brought in against the heavy horse. The charge damage will do a lot of HP damage, but if they're left in there for too long, they'll crumble. The Tarantines are now advancing on the right flank to deal with the chosen spears, while the Thessalian out here was successful in taking out Yawningfirefly's general. The Royal Peltis, as I've stated in one of their previous games, is a beast of a unit when it comes to melee, and has so proven in this particular instance. He brings in a Tarantine charge into the back for good measure. The chosen spears pop cavalry counter tactics, though I don't know how effective it would be if they're already engaged frontally. Certainly more than if it weren't used. The heavy horse is brought in for a quick late rear charge, but crumbles on the impact. There seems to be very few units left for Yawningfirefly, and I think we can all tell where this is headed. So he tries to bring in his heavy horse against this Thessalian charge, and is successful. He times it well, but his heavy horse is just taking too much damage, and so crumbles in trying to intercept. Really, the chosen spears are the only units left for Yawningfirefly, and unfortunately against the Royal Peltis will not last long, the Royal Peltis being in shield wall. And so there we have it, a costly victory in favor of Walii playing as Epirus. So I find this very interesting. The heavy horse actually did quite well, as did the noble horse for Yawningfirefly. 108 kills, 109, 96, one with 7. I believe that one's the one that got charged. The chosen swordsman doing well, 207 kills, 40s, 50s. That's to be expected. Walii did very well with his infantry corps, spread out the kills, but it's really his Thessalians that host the party. 162, 150, 115, 41. Royal Peltis with 226 kills. As I've said, as an absolute beast of a unit. Well, I just want to thank both players, Yawningfirefly and Walii, for playing. I really appreciate it, and this was a very fun game to officiate. So thank you very much, guys. This is Seraphim Total War, signing off. Be well.